I'm sorry about the speech getting ruined by that appalling behaviour from an elected representative of this great Australian government.
There was a groan, okay, when I was in Parliament. There was a groan from people who heard her, who saw her.
I wonder what the people in Victoria think who voted for her.
Welcome to the Sun Show Royal Exclusive, where myself and Arthur Edwards are here in Canberra ahead of the King's visits to the capital city of Australia. Look, it's a beautiful day, but we need to do our research. We've got our coffees and our croissants, and we're having a little look through the Australian newspapers. We may be often accused of giving a kind of rosy picture of the King and Queen's visit here, but we're going to have a little look through the pictures and see what the Australians are actually saying. So, Arthur, welcome. Thank you. Today, what has caught your eye in the papers this morning?
Well, you know, in a very short day yesterday, maybe two, and a bit engagements, but the public just turned out in their hundreds to greet the royal couple. And this great picture on the front of the Sydney Morning Herald of this little girl, Georgina Box, curtsying to the King and Queen. Her mother says in the copy that she'd been practising for 20 minutes before they turned up, so she got it right. And of course, they're smiling at her, and I thought that was pretty impressive.
She almost stole the show, this girl, didn't she?
Absolutely.
I remember I was looking through the pictures yesterday. You took wonderful pictures, and we're thinking, what pictures are going to grace the front pages of the newspapers tomorrow? What sums it up? And yeah, you're right, this girl, Georgia, she'd been practising for 20 minutes.
Absolutely.
And that was the picture that the Australians have chosen on the front page of Sydney Morning Herald.
And I thought that was just a superb story. So there's a piece in the Telegraph as well, similarly, where it's all joy and happiness. King and Queen of Hearts love you. The royals crowd as a royal pair took extra time for their picnic. Not one disparaging remark in the paper. And even the former Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, is going on about the importance of a constitutional monarchy for Australia.
Well, you're right. In this one, we've got two double-page spreads, or the other paper you had, you've got two double-page spreads, and it's almost more coverage in the Australian papers than it is back home in England by the looks of it. I mean, every picture is happy, positive, King and Queen smiling, and they focused on the crowds. They focused on the fact that so many people have come out. And Tony Abbott, the former Prime Minister, has done an opinion piece saying that, long live our ties to the monarch.
Yeah, and the crowd saying, we love you, and why don't you come in more often? And the King replied, well, it's a long way to come. It was engaging, and as you say, the smiles, and Camilla looks stunning, she always does. And I did the walkabout outside the Parliament building, and the people were so hysterically happy. So, he's brought a lot of joy to this.
There's a story here, Arthur, as well in your paper about Aussies hop in line to shower His Majesty with gifts. And I don't know if you remember, but they were given tonics tea cakes. They were given like 8 or 9 bouquets of flowers. They were given, a young girl drew a picture of a kangaroo and handed it to the King. Why not? We're in Australia.
Kangaroo.
But there were presents. I think the rector's wife gave presents for the King's grandchildren. So I obviously asked the King's grandchildren. They said yes, for William and Catherine's children, George, Louis, and Charlotte. I cheekily asked, what, nothing for the other grandchildren? But no, they'd only got presents, and that was a cricket ball, a rugby ball, and a stuffed koala. So I imagine, they've just been given hundreds of presents, and I imagine that the children will be looking forward to getting them back when we go home. I've got the Australian, which is a big, heavy broadsheet. And they're kind of leading on the political angle, where they're saying that the opening paragraph is the King has sounded a clarion call to Australians on the enduring power of democracy.
And also, there's in that article with Tony Abbott, it mentions that, of course, the Albanese government, who when they got appointed a minister for this country to become a republic, and since then it's been disbanded.
Yeah.
So, and the approval rating for a republic is way down there, and I think this visit by the King will actually put it to bed for a long while.
It's interesting to say that, because commentary in the Australian from Alexander Downer, the headline is "Republic Campaign Irrelevant in the Face of King's Popularity," and it's very cutting. And he's talking about, what does the Australian Republican movement actually mean, apart from printing T-shirts and coming up with funny slogans, when you actually see the popularity, that we saw on the first day. And one thing that really strikes to me at the bottom of this article that he's written here, and I read it to you, he says, "In an era when people are increasingly cynical about politics and disillusioned with the political class, the monarchy, and the vice-regal representatives who spring from it is the one institution that is not seen to be cynically responding to and trying to manipulate public opinion for its own benefit. For me, that sums up what the kind of monarchy means, what it can actually achieve, and hopefully that message is getting across loud and clear in the newspapers here. There's also a very disparaging cartoon. Well, it's the King and Queen laughing at the Prime Minister here, Albanese, or Albo, as they call him, who's dressed up as a court jester. And they say, I say, a court jester, how amusing. He's your Prime Minister, Your Majesty. And that's the cartoon there.
Funny, yeah.
So he's saying, I say, a court jester, how amusing. He's the Prime Minister, Your Majesty. I mean, that sums it up, really, I think, the reaction now.
Absolutely. And that paper has a lot of sway in this country. That's the only, actually, national newspaper in Australia is Australian and read by everywhere in this country.
If you think that only 2 engagements created this amount of coverage, we've got a really, really, really busy day today in Canberra. So we better finish our coffees and get off. But so later today, the King will arrive in Canberra. There will be a smoking ceremony, which is spectacular. With an Aboriginal smoking ceremony we'll be able to see and film and watch and enjoy. But we better head off, get to the airport, get to the smoking ceremony, because we've got a full day of engagements of the King and Queen in Canberra.
So my name is Lana Payne. I'm from the Monarchist League of Australia. It's a very historical day for Australia because the first king, since we've actually been colonised, we've always had Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth, so it's a very special day. And you know, we haven't had a royal visit since 2011. We've been waiting and hoping for them to come out. We know that the Queen was a bit advanced in her age, and of course the King now is also, so we're very glad that he's made such an extra special effort, especially considering that he's sick. And you know, we can't wait to have Kate and Wills out here, and hopefully we'll get to see young George out in an Akubra at some stage. We'd love to see that too.
I've come here to support His Majesty the King of Australia and Her Majesty Queen Camilla. It's great to welcome them back to Australia again. He's a long-time friend of this country, and we're just delighted to have him here in the nation's capital. Today I've been handing out over 3,200 flags to members of the public who have come here to greet the King and Queen, and we've run out, and still more people arriving.
Being part of the Commonwealth is a part of our culture, it's our heritage, as much as, you know, England is as much a part of Australia as what, you know, Australia is. So it's very lovely to have them here. We get so many benefits from being under, it's who we are, it's, you know, our cultural identity.
Right, we're now in Sydney after an incredibly busy day in Canberra with a lot of drama. So myself and Arthur, we need to talk about our highlights and our lowlights of the day. Now, my lowlight was I was actually in the Parliament. I was actually filing on an earlier story, and I just listened to the King's speech. Everyone was applauding. Then all of a sudden there was a noise, and someone emerged in the middle of the Great Hall shouting, "Not my King, give us back our land," and accusing the King of genocide.
Give us what you stole from us! Our bones, our skulls, our babies, our people! You destroyed our land! Give us a treaty! We want a treaty in this country! You are a genocider! We destroyed your land!
Immediately I thought, well, this must be a protester that's kind of broken past the cordon. It later transpired that this is actually a senator, quite a well-known, outspoken Indigenous senator, that had decided to walk down the middle of the hall and start abusing the King. There was a groan, okay, when I was in Parliament. There was a groan from people who heard her, who saw her, because they immediately recognised her as Lidia Thorpe. Might not know her in the UK, in Australia, they definitely know her.
Appalling behaviour from an elected representative of this great Australian government. So.
And the thing is, it was such a great speech by the King. All right, he talked about the wisdom of Indigenous people. He talked about respecting being on their lands. It was a really powerful speech. And since then, obviously this Lidia Thorpe, the lady, I think she got ushered out by security after about 30 seconds. She's been roundly condemned. I mean, I've got the Prime Minister has said is disgraceful. I've got Marcia Langton. She's a very well respected Aboriginal activist who's wanted to apologise on behalf of the Indigenous people. She's so embarrassed. And there's a lady called Auntie Violet Sheridan, which I know you saw earlier at the airport. It was quite close to the King.
Yeah.
Called her a one-off idiot.
And she kissed the King, and she loved the King. And the thing is, what you've not mentioned is she used the F word in when she.
I'll say the F word if you want.
Well, no, I don't think we should. I think
she said F the colonies.
F the colonies. You know, now she was the senator for Victoria, and I wonder what the people in Victoria think who voted for her. Anyway, that was probably a good story, but I felt sorry for the King because that was a good speech. But my highlight was when we went to the rainforest and the King and Queen strolling through, and it was just lovely, like an old retired couple walking through Kew Garden. It was really lovely, and once I got that, you know, always when I get a good picture, my heart knows it's a good picture, not before my mind, because I get this buzz inside me. I think, oh, that's it, I've got that. This is going to make the paper tomorrow, hopefully, if there's any space left after your story. But that was it. Otherwise, it was all a bit ordinary. You know, there was signing the visitors' book at Parliament, a walkabout that was lovely. There was two ladies. One had I love Camilla, I love our Queen. Another one was we love Camilla. I mean, she was really well received. But it was very short, you know, and we know that's why, because the King just got to rest. He's got to pace himself, and I know how he feels about that. But the thing is about Canberra, it's the capital, and all the politicians are there, and the Parliament building, and the buildings are beautiful, and they really, it's a wonderful, wonderful city. You know, we went to Government House afterwards. We saw kangaroos running around the lawn. The Queen, she held a domestic abuse sort of a round table, and she posed up with them as a group. And it was lovely, but it wasn't sparkling. And I'm sorry about the speech getting ruined by that awful woman, but all in all, the King and the Queen put in a massive performance today.
And a word needs to be said about the actual Aussie people as well, because I'm a little bit disappointed in the politicians. You've got Lidia Thorpe, who's been roundly condemned by everybody, and respected voices condemned her. We have the Australian premiers that refused to come down and meet the King and Queen.
And also,
but the people have been out. And the amount of people I spoke to said, well, these politicians don't actually speak for us. There was loads and loads of people out on all these jobs. So I want to tell you about my highlight, and it wasn't a person, but it was an alpaca called Heifer. Our producer, Luke, he spotted this alpaca in the crowd at the War Memorial. And we thought, is the King, will he actually go over and maybe find out? And I spoke to the owner, and he said, well, they've dressed Heifer up in a crown and a suit, and he really wants to meet the King. King did go over to speak to Heifer, but unfortunately he fluffed his lines, and the alpaca sneezed on the King.
Oh my God.
I know. But
not good.
He's had much worse.
Well, the thing is, but I mean...
but the crowds were huge.
So the alpaca sneezed on him, and Lidia Thorpe, abused him coming here and made it all. So really, I mean, it was like a good and bad day. But the thing is, you wouldn't know with the King and Queen, because at the end of the day, they were smiling, they were laughing as they walked along, they were chatting to each other. And, he's going to have an early night, hopefully, and we'll start again tomorrow.
Tomorrow he's going to the Indigenous Centre of Excellence, which, based on what happened today, it's going to be really interesting to see how they react to Lydia's actions, because I say she's been roundly condemned by many people. Indigenous and Aboriginal voices have come down in condemnation as to what happens tomorrow. So you say the King's off to relax. We need to go off and relax now, Arthur. So
I think we should,
We should. Well, thanks for watching. We will be back, and we'll be bringing you all the news from the rest of the tour.